Hello everyone, welcome back to another election prediction. This time we have the 2024 Senate map for the month of October. And we're just going to be going through the races and updating them as we go. But for the first few safe states, Wyoming, it's usually the plain states that are pretty solid Republican. Same with Missouri. Again, I don't think Lucas Kunz will be able to outrun Biden enough to make Missouri competitive, but he is a decent candidate. And Josh Hawley, again, he could Josh Hawley isn't the best candidate. I could see him actually underperforming Trump by a couple of points. But let's keep going with the rest of the safe red states. So we're starting out with 47 safe Republican states. Now let's go with the safe Democratic ones. Okay, I think we could get right into it. So we're going to start off with Minnesota. Again, Amy Klobuchar is running here. She frequently has landslide victories in Minnesota, outperforms other Democrats running with her. So again, it's a pretty clear shot she's going to win in a landslide in Minnesota. Maine, Angus King, he's an extremely popular candidate. I think he has a great shot at winning in Maine. I think it's very likely he actually pulls off the win in Maine by over 10 points quite easily because I don't think the Republicans have any good candidates to run against them. Oh, yeah, New Jersey. I should talk about that. So I'm going to put that back in the toss-up column. So if Bob Menendez is the nominee, we could see a very competitive race in New Jersey. I would even put it as lean D as of right now if Bob Menendez is running against if Bob Menendez is the Democratic nominee. But here's what I'm going to say about that. That's not going to happen. He has an 8% approval rating. He's not winning a Democratic primary. He has no shot at it. He's not going to win. It's not even going to be possible for him to win with that low of an approval rating unless he's completely exonerated in that trial. It ain't going to happen. And that scandal has pretty much tanked his chance at winning the primary. I think they're just going to replace him with, as of right now, I saw Kim running for the Senate in New Jersey. Let's take a look. I'm pretty sure his name is Andy Kim. Yeah, he's the U.S. rep for New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District. He's pretty much easily going to win that primary. I think Bob Menendez has little chance at beating him at this point, and he's already out fundraising him. And yeah, Bob Menendez's only chance is, I don't know, run as an independent, but even then he'll probably just get destroyed. For now, I'm putting New Jersey as safe blue. I think Andy Kim will probably easily beat Bob Menendez in the state of New Jersey. It really wouldn't be that much of a contest. But yeah, that's why I have New Jersey as safe blue. I don't think Menendez has any hope at winning the primary. So with Virginia, Tim Kaine. The only candidate that could make Virginia likely blue, let me just go down, is Hung Kao. But even then, he's losing the endorsement battle. A lot of U.S. senators are getting behind Scott Parkinson. And again, I've really never really heard of him. He really probably wouldn't have that big of a shot at winning here. And considering that Biden's probably going to win by the high single digits or even a safe margin in Virginia, I think that Tim Kaine's probably going to outrun Biden considerably in Virginia as well, like he usually does. He isn't really an unpopular senator. He fits well with Virginia. And the fact that Republicans are coalescing around the wrong candidate, Virginia will be safe blue. New Mexico also, there's not a lot of strong Republicans to run here. I could very easily see the incumbent Democratic senator winning and outperforming the Democratic nominee and Joe Biden by a good amount, probably about 5% or 3% or so. He outperforms Biden. And again, the Republicans just have no-name candidates. Literally, none of these candidates are good enough to beat the incumbent senator here. So safe blue for now. And Republicans aren't going to waste money on this race, so that's why I'm also having a safe blue. Pennsylvania. So again, Republicans are coalescing around Dave McCormick, and McCormick is not that strong of a candidate. I really don't see it going that well for him. Again, he lost a primary. He probably would have lost to Fetterman by a likely margin even. Well, actually, it would have been lean at least. I think he would have been slightly better than Mehmet Oz. But again, I don't really see Republicans winning here considering how badly they lost the Senate race in 2022. And Bob Casey is certainly stronger than John Fetterman. So for now, I'm having this as a likely blue race. I really don't think it's going to get competitive. And the only saving grace is David McCormick. He could self-fund the race, but really isn't going to be that big of a deal, honestly. So West Virginia, with Joe Manchin, again, his only hope is if he runs against the other Republican in the race that's running against Jim Justice. Let's go down to his name. If he's running against Alex Mooney, that's his only shot because, again, we could look at the polling here. He actually does quite well against Alex Mooney, sometimes even leading against him. So if it's Alex Mooney as the nominee, it's probably still just lean Republican because, again, Joe Manchin, there's a lot of undecideds here that will probably just vote however Trump tells them to in the state of West Virginia. And Jim Justice and every other poll's leading by like double digits against Joe Manchin. So far, Jim Justice looks like he's going to be the nominee in West Virginia Senate. So for now, I have West Virginia as safe Republican. I'm really counting out Joe Manchin's chances here. It's a Trump plus 40 state. I don't see it. I don't see Joe Manchin holding on if Jim Justice is the nominee. He's a very strong candidate. He's a very popular governor in West Virginia, too. Joe Manchin's approval ratings in West Virginia has kind of gone down as of recently. So Florida with the Democrats, again, it's a very downward trajectory state for Democrats in the state of Florida. It's kind of hopeless at this point for them to potentially win it. Right now, I think Rick Scott, he's quite favored to win here, even though he'll probably underperform the Republican nominee by a couple points to his low approval rating. The Democrats are just doing terrible to Cuban voters here. So even if they run Debbie Muscarella-Powell, she's not going to be able to beat Rick Scott here. He's a pretty strong candidate, just based off of how he actually ousted an incumbent senator. Even though it was by 0.1%, 2018 was still a blue wave year, and that kind of shows how Florida has shifted in favor of the Republicans after all these years. And they're already overtaken them in voter registration by a lot. So I'm having Florida as a likely Republican race as of right now. Okay, starting with the next state, we're going to go over to Wisconsin. And again, Tammy Baldwin, she's running for re-election. And all the good Republican candidates have decided not to run. They're pretty much just going to have probably David Clark as the nominee, and he really isn't that serious of a candidate anyway. Mike Gallagher is the only one who can make this race competitive, but he's running for re-election in his House district. So, again, Wisconsin's not going to be a competitive race for the Senate side. It's going to be likely blue as of right now. Michigan with Alyssa Slotkin. Again, she's pretty likely to be the Democratic nominee. It could be a bit more competitive than Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, which is why I'm putting it as lean blue for now. But I still think that she'll probably outperform Biden by a point or two here, thus making it probably a 3 to 4 point victory for her in the state of Michigan. In the state of Texas, again, Ted Cruz, he's quite unpopular, and Colin Allred could juice up urban turnout in Texas, but I just don't see it flipping. Biden needs to make Texas close for it to be competitive, and as of right now, Biden's doing a bit worse in the popular vote, and I just don't see Texas being as competitive. I think Ted Cruz probably wins this race by about 3% or so, maybe even by 4%. Let's just put it at 3.5% for now. Ted Cruz wins by. But that's pretty much my rating on Texas. I don't think Democrats are really primed to flip the state as of 2024, maybe in 4 years. But I think I'll probably end up flipping by 2032, honestly. Still think I'll vote red by 2028. All right. The next few states, Nevada and Arizona. Luckily for Democrats, they'll have much higher Democratic turnout in Nevada, which is definitely an improvement from 2022, where he had pretty low turnout and nearly lost the Senate race here. So for now, I'm putting Nevada as lean blue. Their only real shot was probably to rerun the same candidate they had last time in 2022, because he definitely almost flipped that seat. But he's not, as of right now, he's not running in Nevada's Senate race in 24. With Arizona, even if Kyrsten Sinema runs, I still think she takes more support away from the Republicans than Democrats. We could take a look at all the polling showing that statement. It's even possible Sinema beats out Kari Lake for second place as well. But overall, I don't think Sinema runs. I really think she uses the polls and sees it doesn't really look like a path of victory for me. It'll be pretty bad if I finish in third place. That'll pretty much definitely be a bit of an embarrassment for her if she were to finish in third. But again, they're running Kari Lake again, and she lost before in the governor race, shockingly, when I thought she was actually going to win. So I just think she's a bad candidate for the Senate race here. The best bet was probably to run Doug Ducey. Even Blake Masters would probably be a better candidate than Kari Lake at this point. But again, even if Senna runs, she'll probably take away more support from the Republicans, just because she has a higher approval rating from Republicans than she does among Democrats. That's pretty much the case here. So for now, I would have Ruben Gallego winning by a lean blue margin. I really don't think he loses to Kari Lake or Kyrsten Sinema as is right now, unless the polls change. Okay, we're down to Ohio and Montana. Ohio, I kind of changed my thinking. So far, I don't think Bernie Moreno is going to be the nominee. I think it's probably going to be Frank LaRose. Again, Frank LaRose, he definitely has the best chances at winning here. And so far, that's what the primary polling shows. I'm actually leading by a decent amount. Let me just head down there. Yeah, 32%. Moreno's in third. Matt Dolan, he's probably just going to end up losing again. But again, the worst case scenario for Republicans is if Bernie Moreno is the nominee. I think you would probably lose narrowly to Sherrod Brown. Matt Dolan, you'll probably be able to beat Sherrod Brown by a narrow tilt margin. Frank LaRose, he's probably the best bet because he actually won decent victories statewide before. Even though the polling actually shows Brown up against LaRose, there's a lot of undecideds here. And again, as we've seen in the Senate race in 2022, those undecideds pretty much went to the Republican candidate and J.D. Vance. So we're probably going to see the same story here. But we could see some undecideds go to Sherrod Brown. But at the same time, Frank LaRose is a pretty decent candidate. So I changed my thinking. I think the Republicans narrowly flip the Ohio Senate seat here by a tilt margin. So they get their Senate majority of 51 seats for sure. The state of Montana, however, there's not a lot of polls coming out of here when there really should be. There's not a lot of reliable polls coming out either. I'll go into that explanation why. We could just take a look. The poll that shows Sheehy up, or Rosendale up, again, it's done by Jail Partners. I never heard of this pollster before, but so far the polls I've seen, they tend to be a little bit more Republican biased or so. I mean, they have DeSantis up against Newsom when DeSantis isn't that good of a candidate anymore, and there is no margin of error. When a poll doesn't have a margin of error, I just don't trust it. I don't think they did it right. I think they did something wrong with the sampling. And so far, the other polls, I mean, they're pretty outdated. Again, the only thing we have going based off of this is Tester's good approval rating from the Morning Consult. They do good polls about the approval rating of all senators, and they show Tester in the high 50s. I also think it's the case in Montana's Senate race is quite similar to what happened in Maine in 2020. What happened in Maine is Susan Collins shockingly won, while Biden won the state by a likely margin. So again, I think we could see a similar scenario happen like we saw in Maine in 2020 happen in Montana in 24. We could see Tester pull off a narrow tilt margin of victory, considering that Rosendale actually looks like he's going to be the Republican nominee based off early polling, actually showing him quite up against Tim Sheehy, even though Sheehy has the quite long list of endorsements on his side. But as of right now, I think Rosendale is probably going to be the nominee. And so far, what we've known from past Senate races is when you run a candidate who lost against someone 6 years later, they never really win. We saw that with Russ Feingold in Wisconsin. He ran for a rematch race in 2016 against Ron Johnson, and Ron Johnson beat him again. So, again, historically, Tester's the favorite as long as Rosendale's the nominee. If Sheehy's the nominee, this is probably a tilt Republican flip. But if Rosendale's the nominee, it's probably a tilt Democratic hold as of right now, unless other polls actually come out that are reliable, that actually have margin of errors with them as well. But for now, I have Tester as a narrow favorite, and we have a 51 to 49, 51 seats in favor of the Republicans. They recaptured the Senate as of right now. So I would highly appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, and please let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. I'm curious to hear about your feedback. Do you disagree with a few of these races, or do you just fully agree with the whole map? I would be curious to hear about that. Alrighty, I'll see y'all in the next video.